Hey class, it's Mr. Parrish. I wanted to go over today's notes with you together instead of giving you a video to watch and have you take notes or anything like that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through the notes with you. So get out your notebooks, and there's a few things I'd like you to copy down, and you may want to pause this several times to get exactly what I want you to get out of it. So. As soon as I figure out how to get out of here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that is not your class. Let's go to your class. Okay, so today is Monday, September 9th, and we're going to be taking notes over feudalism, okay? A few things about feudalism. Number one, it is the dominant social structure in Europe following the fall of Rome. Okay, so basically what that means is that after the fall of Rome, it is how people lived their lives. Okay, and under Rome, you had this great empire, and the great empire took care of a lot of stuff, right? They built roads, they had militaries, they had all that. When feudalism came around after the fall of Rome, all of that was gone away, all right? So what you had was this very small social structure, this very small structure where you might have a king and lords and peasants who were called serfs that lived beneath them. So a few things here on it that I want you to get. This little diagram here that shows the king and the nobles and the knights and the peasants. I want you to make that in your notes, okay? And the stuff in the box here, I want you to write inside the triangle or outside of it and then pointing like it is. You don't have to draw the people, obviously, but you need to know that the king owned all the land and made the laws, and he made an area of land called a fief to rich lords and nobles. And then below him, you had the nobles, and the nobles were like the wealthy landowners who lived beneath the king. Now, in some areas of feudalism, they didn't actually own their own land. But for this, we're just going to call them the wealthy landowners because that's who they become. All right, so the nobles, they were the people who had titles like dukes and earls and counts and burghers and people like that. Below them, you have the knights. And the knights were there to do all of the military stuff. They did battle. They were the military for the lords. And then at the bottom, you have the peasants. And in feudalism, the peasants were called serfs. It's spelled right here, S-E-R-F, serfs. The serfs were many, okay? There were a lot of serfs. Most of them were farmers, okay? They farmed the land, and what they ended up doing is they ended up giving most of their profits to the people above them for protection, okay? So feudalism, in one instance, was a social structure where the people at the bottom, and that we're talking like 90% of the population was at the bottom, they had no rights, they had no money, and they owned no land. All of the land belonged to the people up here, the knights, I'm sorry, the lords and the king. So in this style here, you have a castle. A castle is sometimes referred to as a manor. And the castle here, not only was it where the lords or the king lived, but they also had these giant walls around it, and it is where the people who lived out on the land could go and live in times of battle. So they could go actually in here, and there was land for them to farm in here. There was different things that the farmers could do in there to support the Lord, and they wanted to support the Lord because they wanted to go back to their houses and live with their families. If not, they'd be taken over by another lord, and there's a chance that they could be enslaved. Okay? So out here, beyond the walls, though, you had like churches, and you had lots and lots of smaller houses where serfs lived with their families, workshops and pastures and things like that. All right? That is what I want you to get out of this. So hopefully you've taken some notes over this, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.